Well, greetings and salutations, one and all, to the one and only Career Retrospectives right here in the Super Review Show Network. I am joined by my two incredible friends, Kyle and Mike. How are you both doing tonight?
Doing good. What's up, guys?
Doing great, man. Ready to go.
So great to be back here once again on Monday nights, EST, doing our show about our Career Retrospective show about music, all things music, of course. And this is a great pick, I would say, because Mike, we spun the wheel last week. It landed on the final last pick on the wheel of course, and landed on Mike's pick, which was the Byron Band's "On the Rocks." And Mike, this is your pick. I mean, you put it on the wheel. What do you got for us, buddy?
Yeah, just to start off, the initial kind of reaction to it. Obviously, I've known this album for quite some time. I mean, I was an exclusive fan of Uriah Heep as a unit. Obviously, their first 4 or 5 albums. After that, never really was able to kind of keep up with the changes in the band. And like after he left the band or was kicked out for the most part, due to just just a lot of collisions between them, and he suffered from a lot of issues with alcohol. I mean, clearly On the Rocks, it could describe his relationship with the band, as well as his favorite thing to partake in would be alcohol. He kind of headed towards this style of album, this style of music. He had his own self-titled album. He had the Byron Band, which from what I gather, it's UFO, the band UFO, as his backing band, and kind of a collaborative effort to write music that's like kind of more dance hall music, more party rock and roll kind of stuff, versus like the in-depth, very kind of mysterious and progressive nature that Uriah Heep was. This took a lot more of a fun, turn. It was full of like solos, full of a little bit of jazz, a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of a lot of different things that he didn't really get to fully explore in Uriah Heep. So like that's just kind of the general idea of it. And he kind of led a troubled journey past this album, past this point, into this point of time and through Uriah Heep. So it's kind of interesting to see what he was really interested in putting out after, like, how it is when you're writing a album with a bunch of people who are all trying to gain control of the sound. You might get washed out from time to time. He did help write a couple of the songs throughout Uriah Heep's time, but ultimately the creative process was not in his corner. So, and I always wondered what it sounded like, and this is it. So yeah, like I definitely it's an interesting look into what he'd like to do stylistically.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, going into this, I wasn't even aware of, because I'm not that familiar with Uriah Heep's as catalog outside of the one album we did, and I was obviously seeing them live with you, my friend. But just getting to know this album, I really liked. There was a lot of things I really actually truthfully enjoyed quite a bit on this album that was completely under the radar for most people. If you go on Spotify, because I'm assuming Kyle listens to it on Spotify too, but if you go and listen to it on Spotify, the streaming numbers are so low. It's kind of shocking about how low they actually are. Like not even in the 10,000s, like they're in like the 1,000s of streaming.
5,000 on a couple, yeah.
Yeah, he's saying 1,000, 5,000, a couple of them. It really is just like it's such a very extremely under the radar album, and I applaud Mike for coming up with this album in general that he was aware of for a long time, because it opened my eyes and my ears to what would this side project sound like by this artist or by a band from the 70s or 80s that could have been a little bit better or could have been a little bit worse. We're gonna get into it all in a second. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed what I heard overall. I mean, Kyle, I don't know how you feel about this. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm like a middle ground between the two of you. Or Mike's super familiar with Uriah Heep, and JT not so much, outside like the one album that we did. I know that one album, and then select songs here and there from throughout their discography that Mike's had me check out a few times, and I like what I've heard. So going into this, I had an open mind for it. I had zero idea what to expect. at all. I did kind of go into it expecting not to hear that kind of sound for the most part, just because it's a solo project. I generally don't assume that when someone's a solo project that it's going to be the exact sound that their band or their previous band has done. So going into it, I have mixed feelings on it. It was a pretty mixed bag, if you will.
Fun. There we go.
But yeah, so I mean that's pretty much all I have for background and initial thoughts. So if we want to kick it off, Mike, I'm curious. Just want to see if our highs line up on this one. So I mean, for me, Rebecca kicks off the album very promising. It's actually one of my second favorite on the record. I do sit at a 7 on it. It's like my second favorite. But what I found in this, and Mike, I know that we discussed this. We listened to this in the car the other day. The drums on this song and the album as a whole, incredibly repetitive. That's something that I'm not going to fault just him for on this release too much, because that's something that was a kind of a habit throughout the late 70s, early 80s, very simplistic, repetitive drum patterns. I feel like this song kind of suffered a bit from that. Very AC/DC vibes on this one. Same thing, very AC/DC Deep Purple sound. It's a fun song. It doesn't go as many places as I would like to, and their idea of having it go somewhere tends to just be throwing a guitar solo, do a guitar solo. I'm not really a guitar solo guy. They don't really hold my interest unless you have a very well written, well structured, memorable solo. They don't do much for me. But I mean, that one was a top for me. And then my favorite was not even on the standard version here. It was the Fool for a Pretty Face. This song kicks ass. It's not even on JT's Wikipedia here. So it was on the expanded. So for background for everyone, we listened to the expanded version with Fool for a Pretty Face, Safety and Numbers, and 1 minute more, right? We all did that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure. It appears to be a couple, through research on this, appears to be a couple different track lists for different deluxe editions that have come out over the years. But Fool for a Pretty Face is a great song. It does sound like it may not have been totally finished. Like it could have been a demo, like a kind of like a raw demo that could have been fleshed out a little bit more. But I kind of like the raw, like rock quality to it. Almost has a early Van Halen sound to it, which I thought was really interesting. The vocals on it are the most charismatic vocals of this record, in my opinion. That's at an 8. I really like that song. But yeah, Mike, where are your tops on that?
So it's funny, when I first listened to this album, obviously I listened to a couple songs more than others. So like starting off the first 3 songs, I really thought they were they all added a cool vibe to it. So Rebecca is one of my top songs. It's 9 out of 10. It's just a dance rocking rhythm, like AC/DC kind of. It's a little repetitive, but it. Kyle and I had talked about this. Drum wise, its objective is to be a dance song with a steady beat that doesn't change and gets you out on the dance floor. That is its objective. And while it does suffer from that, I think in the time frame and era that it comes out of, it really implements a lot of things well. You're going to notice through this whole album that there's a saxophone solo, a saxophone presence that really adds a cool vibe and overall kind of classic sound to a lot of the rhythm, the dancing, the whole nine that brought into this album. So Rebecca, definitely up there in the tops with a 9, as well as one of my top favorite songs on this album, Never Say Die. That is just a great song, upbeat, great song structure. It never wears out its welcome. It changes in the areas it needs to. It's like the chorus, just when that chorus changes, it's so great. The great piano throughout it, that old kind of honky tonk kind of piano that they add in, kind of gives me ELO vibes with the way they kind of use the piano and to change into the next part of the song. Great. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
It's so interesting that you went ELO on that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very Meatloaf-esque.
Oh, yeah. I can see
A
that.
little bit Meatloaf.
It lacks kind of like the full like operatic nature, specifically like the vocals, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was listening to it. I was like, I really enjoyed the instrumentation on that one.
Yeah.
Of course, catchy on that. But listening to it, I was like, this sounds like something that Meatloaf would have done.
No, yeah, kick in any time because that's actually it's a good point. That it does have that kind of rock opera-esque type of feeling with
Absolutely.
with how dramatic it is with some of the the sonic elements of it. As well as Fool for a Pretty Face. You nailed it on the head, Kyle. It's a very catchy chorus, rockin' song. It does feel super raw. All three of those songs sound super raw. And like Safety in Numbers, another great song. Very Deep Purple Rainbow feel to it, but the vocals almost feel. What did you say?
I'm saying.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Vocals feel in that song feel almost as if they were recorded without the person really finishing them to the level that they like I expected them to. Almost like someone was like reading through the lyrics but singing them, but like reading through them but not fully like blasting them the way he wants to. So it's I just kind of note the rawness of those three songs. But yeah, I'd say Never Say Die, Rebecca, Fool for a Pretty Face. Those are some of the top songs, followed, by a close second to Bad Girl and How Do You Sleep. That whole part of the album is great, and I really feel like it kind of adds a little bit of everything. Rebecca's your dance song, Bad Girls your blues kind of, and Hendrix kind of like kind of guitar riffs and solos and stuff going on, and then How Do You Sleep is like a kind of kind of like that quiet, a little more creepy, dark vibe to it. Yeah, so like those are some of my standouts for this album.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have a lot of standouts for this record. Truthfully, I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much as I truthfully as I did. Actually, because if we're going into it, I was like, all right, it's a pretty much an unknown album to me, at least. And going into it, I was like, man, there's just like so much, a lot of for an album that sounded the same for the most part. But at the same time, it didn't sound the same at all. There was, well, I shouldn't say that's a very bad analogy. What I'm trying to say is like every song sounded at least a little bit the same. I think the drums are what kept it consistent throughout the record. Like as far as like just keeping the songs in a similar time period of being made, the songs being made. I don't remember if it was Kyle or Mike. They said like early Van Halen. The best way I could describe this album is Van Halen drums meets Meatloaf's operatic feel and epicness of music to a very ELO-esque Uriah Heep vibe. You want to? This is when I was listening to this, I'm like, oh my god, there's so much like different elements of piano, of saxophone solos, like you said. Obviously, like I enjoy that stuff too, like the horn sections and stuff too. But this is just something. This is a very unique sounding record too, and it just. I could the top tracks for me, I would say, would definitely have to be I'd had to look at my notes for a second. Piece of My Love for sure. I love the piano work in the start of it, and then it builds up towards the end of it there. How Do You Sleep, for whatever reason, How Do You Sleep is actually really solid. I like that one a lot more than I thought I did. And Rebecca, I mean, Mike hit the nail on the head. They're like dance floor type of rock song, like almost like a Walk This Way or like a Paradise with the Dashboard Light. Like it's a rock song when it gets you dancing, at least. It's not just, or like without having dancing in the title, like Dancing in the Dark or Dancing with Myself or things like that. It actually brings, Mike, you hit the nail on the head there. I could not agree with you more with that statement with Rebecca being like a dance floor esque, especially like for the time. It's 81 too, 1981. Like, this definitely has that vibe of like late 70s, early 80s rock and roll danceability, if you will, to it. Almost like a throwback to like Chuck Berry, or like Little Richard, a little bit there. Like, with rock and roll, you could dance to it, not just like headbang to it or thrash to it. You could dance to rock and roll as well. That's what I like to it. I like the overall sound of this record too. I don't know if I had mentioned that or not, but the sound on this record is really great. I mean, I'm not talking about the production, but I mean like the actual combination of different instruments of saxophone, piano, drums, guitar work, vocals, all of it melded together is a really strong record overall. I mean, I was taken back by how much I enjoyed this. I actually would go back to it again in a heartbeat if I had the opportunity to. Outside of listening to it over and over again for our show on Monday night tonight, but I would go back to this in a heartbeat, like as a whole project, as a whole, including the deluxe bonus tracks of Fool for a Pretty Face, Safety by Numbers, and One More Minute. This is just a great record that I could like. I'm trying not to repeat myself here, but truthfully, I really could go back to it a lot more than I thought I would. And I appreciate Mike for broadening the horizon even more for us, not just me, but for Kyle too, by going back and listening to a whole album, or in Mike's words, digesting an album. That's Mike's words, not mine. But just and enjoying a whole project together as one big. It's not too long. It's like what, 40 minutes? It was 48 minutes long. Perfect length, perfect.
Yeah,
a good runtime too.
And what's crazy is there are a ton of tracks that were not released on this album. Maybe they were under what the band released together and then cut from the album. If you go on YouTube and look this up, I mean, there's like 25 songs or thereabouts. I think a lot of them included from like deep cuts and things that David Bryon did with the band almost said LFO. But UFO is what I meant to say.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, UFO. But like there are a bunch of tracks that just weren't, and there's a bunch of really good ones. There's some ones that needed to be cut, and it really does kind of show the dynamics of what an artist could explore when they're not trying to chase a brand name. So Uriah Heep chases a brand name, obviously, until the 80s when they start to change their style drastically. Abominog is one of the albums I do want to do with you guys at some point. Do a complete breakdown on that, because that's straight like probably hair metal-esque with some more kind of party rock feel to it. And it kind of reminds me of what David Bryon wanted to do, never had a chance to, because when you have a fan base, you have a momentum. The last thing you want to do is change your momentum with a complete style change. Sometimes your fan base can really beat you up over that. So coming into that, you really do kind of get a different look when you see a side project or something that has less pressure to answer to fans and be responsible for how they react. You can just kind of do what you want. So that is a cool thing. And I do like to like you were saying, you could live 1,000 years and not find every bit of music, every bit of thing that's released out there, with new music being released by the minute in this world. And and all that time that it takes you to find something, you're only going to have so much time to devote to it. So like this album wouldn't have been found, wouldn't have been listened to, had someone not brought it into the light and said, hey, listen to it. So it's like, it really is amazing how much you can try to get to and never will ever truly get to in your time. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like put that out there. And it really mind-blowing. Yeah,
I mean, music is vast. It's just on a regular note there. It's a vast medium to dive into, genre-wise, sub-genre-wise, you name it. It's crazy. So, Kyle, I feel like I cut you off for a second. I apologize if I did.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, if you're talking about that, like the modern music landscape, like Mike said, a new song released a minute. I'd say probably a new song released every second nowadays. With everyone having access to recording, recording softwares on the computer that are relatively, affordable and can create a, decent enough sound quality to sound almost professional. Everyone's putting things out now. So many things get lost in the shuffle. You can't possibly hear everything. If this album was to come out today, it probably would be a victim of that. But it was an interesting listen. I mean, it's a pretty good segue into things I didn't like about it.
Sure.
A lot of it I found to be pretty, just on my own standards, to be pretty like mid here and there, like 5s and 6s on it, with specifically like the middle section of the album, like Start Believing was like a 5. Never Say Die was like a 6 for me. I really like the instrumentation. I didn't think it was that great. Piece of My Love, same thing. But where it fell apart for me was songs like Little by Little. Just the repetitive nature of just Little by Little over and over again just really started to grate on me. I was like, come on, you could have done something else here. One More Minute on the the expanded version, that also one of my least favorites. This one I think suffers the most from that feel of not being like a totally finished song. There's like some things that happen that are pretty cool, but overall that one sounds like raw and unfinished in a way that ultimately hurts it. But I'd be kidding myself if I didn't have to mention King as by far the worst track on. And when I say by far, I mean like I thought this song was actively bad. This is the one song on the album that I thought was actively like horrendous.
Kyle, you don't like He Was the King, right? Ding-a-ling. You don't like that? Come on,
Nope.
Kyle.
I thought this had some truly terrible lyrics, start to finish. Didn't like anything that was going on here. Instrumentation, lyrics, vocal delivery, everything about this one was extremely questionable to me, especially in the context of this album, where everything else sounds pretty, standard and sounds pretty put together and cohesive. And then there's this song, and it's like, why? Why include this one? Could have easily cut this for it. I mean, you're telling me that you left Fool for a Pretty Face sitting on like the cutting room floor, but put King, and what was that line again? He was the king, right? Ding-a-ling. Come on.
Oh God.
Yeah, I hate this song. This song is two for me. I will probably never listen to this one again. This one skip for me every time. But that's the only one I can say I truly dislike. The others just kind of are more, they score lower just because they're not my general style of preferred music to listen to. But if you like this style, if you like this like early 80s production style, and just songwriting style, you'll like it.
Kyle hates fun. King is the best song. Kyle, that's the best. King is the best song. I'm just kidding with you. Actually, it's one of my least favorite songs on this album as well. Wow. It feels like it's a story song. So it's like we're telling a story with the same, like, you ever like watch like one of those, like, Devil Came Down to Georgia, which is a great song, but like, how it's like kind of there's, well, what do you say?
And a great story.
Yeah, but exactly, a great story, a good song, but it kind of like, while the guy's telling the story in the background, it's kind of just like, it's just kind of playing along while he's talking. It tried to do that in this song where he's just kind of like talking and it's just kind of doing the same thing over and over again while it's waiting for him to reach like through the story, and it's just kind of making noises and sound effects and whatever. Like, it's not a horrid song, but it is corny, it is repetitive, and it is like it's a 6 out of 10 for me, which sounds like it's actually still entertaining enough and funny because it's got like an upbeat quality to it that I enjoy and is like kind of cringe, and I appreciate awkward songs like that, even if they're like, you know, just bizarre. It really is a fun. It's funny, but it's also just not good in comparison to a lot of the other songs. But yeah, that one made my list of like my least favorites as well. I was not a huge fan of Little by Little. You know, I do love the saxophone, the fun, chill kind of, but once again, it needs to change direction, and it doesn't. It just kind of does the same thing again, which gives me this feeling that it, in a lot of ways, a lot of these artists tried to capture a moment, a feeling, and wanted to stay in that feeling for as long as possible. And that's an interesting way to look at music, because you're unapologetic and you're uncaring of what someone listening to it may get bored with. You're like, no matter what, I'm going to ride this vibe that I feel you need to stay with, whether some don't like it or not. So I appreciate that, the desire to hold on to something and keep that vibe going, whether it may you may lose half the back end of your listeners or whatever. You're like, screw it, this is my song, and I'm going to stay the course. And I appreciate that. You know, while it's not my favorite, it's you know, it's like in the 6.57 category, probably 6.5. You know, I might throw it into 7, because as a whole piece of work, this album together, I would forgive it more if it was not surrounded by other great upbeat songs that don't repeat in that manner. It kind of balances things out. So yeah. Other than that, I really loved a lot of everything else, even the deep cuts, the rough cuts. It felt like great ideas and musicianship and soul. I love the solos. I'm just a solo guy. I know you're not a solo guy, Kyle, but I do get a very chill, relaxed vibe from the solos. They're all interesting to me, and they all add a feeling of like style to it that I miss in music today.
It's a very valid point there too. You mentioned guitar solos. I mean, I'm all for like guitar solos. I'm all for saxophone solos. I'm all for piano solos. I'm all for soloing. It can work, unless if it doesn't work, then that's a different story. I mean, but for this album in this context of 1981 for On the Rocks, I mean, I think it worked well. Would I say this is like the greatest thing of all time? Would I say it's like, you know, Sgt. Pepper or, you know, stuff like that? No. But do I put in the conversation of like, hey, you might like to check it out? Yeah, I think I would recommend this to someone personally. I didn't. But to both of your points though, King, I'm all for storytelling in songs. I mean, some of my favorite songs of all time are more of a storyteller, narrative, lyric than just you know, a nonsense, corny, cheesy, lyrical nonsense. I've always been a big fan of like the storytellers in music, not just a like you know, an anthem type song, like, you know, like a you have a band named by Bon Jovi, just to bring one up, but who he evolved into a singer songwriter later, but that's besides the point. I've always been a fan of good storytelling in songs and how songs can identify things in your own life, you know, not just like you like not just in the creator's mindset, but like the listener's mindset too. Like if a song tells like a broken-hearted story about like a guy's at a bar, he's not doing well, you know, like most men can relate to that, or most women can relate to that. It all depends on who you are. But for me, like, just I bring that up because King is like very, very cheesy, unfortunately. I like musically speaking of, but I still like the music around it's great. Just the lyrics are very, you know, hey, Lord of the Rings, Gollum, you know, like, you know, just a little bit there. So I was like, it's just the musically it's very good, but like lyrically, yikes. That's all I have to say.
Several times he says in the song, he was the king, and you know what? If you know what I mean, I don't know what you mean, sir. Like, I've tried.
Who are you? What are you doing?
I think when someone says that, they're very like nervous that you don't know what they mean, and I have to kind of repeat it again.
Who are you? Who are you? What?
Yeah, convincing himself and who he's talking to that you know what you want. And I think you know what I mean. I think I'm not really
Exactly. Yeah. So
sure.
no, but I was saying like, what I if I was to go up to a random person on the street and say, "Hi, would you like to try this album? I manufactured it 30 years ago." Sure, why not? I would I would totally go up to them and be like, "Hey, here's a great album. Check it out." Because this is I give this a pass, truthfully. Outside of King, if I had to rate it though, like overall, I mean, like there's a couple of like there's a couple of dull tracks here. Like I mean, obviously King lyrically speaking, but but overall, there's not too many lows on the record. Like, would I like less solos? Maybe, sure, but that's also part of the creative process of writing a song in general. So it all depends on whatever the person wants to present, the musician wants to present, of course. But no, I mean, overall, I'm saying like probably like a rough 7. I mean, I could go higher upon more listening. Aside from listening to it over and over again before our show, I would give this a higher rating if I so choose to listen to it even more, to digest it more, to to solidify my taste and enjoy it even more. But as generous I can give it, I'd give it a 7 out of 10 for the Bryon Bands on the Rocks. It's definitely not it's not a bad record. There are things that I didn't like. There's a lot of things I did like though, truthfully. Like the way I kind of live in that world of like, it's from 1981. Sure, let's give it a shot. You know what I mean? So that's just where I'm at. But
for sure. And for me, I'd sit at an 8 out of 10. I actually really appreciate the fun of this album, the dance quality to it, the different motions that are going on, the blues, the straight upbeat dance songs, some of the funky elements of it are just overall like progressive, like the Deep Purple stuff going on. Is it like a tight and like overall like a polished feel to it? No, I think that's why I like my music. I like it to be kind of have have a lot of grit to it in the sense that it's not worried about trying to sound so, like everything was just super fine-tuned. The drums can be a little bit all over the place, and I think that's fun. It feels like people playing music in a garage, or you listening to music of a band at a bar who's playing music to get everybody out and going, and like they just hit right because of the energy they bring, and the energy is there. And I think that's it's a freeze frame of a time when you could go out for the night and have a great time and not worry about how it stacks up against this artist or that artist or blah 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 blah. You had a good time. You had fun. You bobbed your head. You tapped your toe. You danced, and in the end of the night, you were happy with that this still exists. That we haven't all turned into like, oh, we're all sad or we're all this or we're all that. Like some people can still have fun in the moment. So it's definitely captures the energy and the spirit for an 8 out of 10. And Kyle has definitely not agree with that due to his lack of camera. But I'm gonna say if I were to predict Kyle's, it's gonna be like a 4.5 out of 10 or a 5. That's my guess. So just let Kyle populate my words here.
Well, Mike, you're correct. It's a 5.
You called it. Kyle, I know you better than you know you, sir.
You called it spot on. It's a solid 5, though. It's just not my type of music I would sit down and choose to seek out. The songs I do like, I think, are really solid. I like Rebecca and Fool for a Pretty Face. I think are 2 really great songs. I would go back, listen to those, and add them to my playlist and all that. It's just the rest of it fell flat for me, especially like the more like slower is not really the right word, but like the less up tempo songs here. It's just not really my style. I still enjoyed it. A nice like background listen, other than the couple songs I mentioned I did not like, King. But overall, I think that if you're someone that likes this like late 70s, early 80s style of this, you say classic rock, but I feel like some of it tends to air outside of a lot of the sounds of like the popular classic rock at the time, and more of like the kind of like underground scene of things that are like less popular. You know, as the shows with having Spotify listens in the thousands, and not even Rebecca's the highest streamed song on here with 15,000 listens on Spotify. So, you know, not bad. No, 5.
All right, heard it first. Those are our ratings for tonight. Now, for those of you keeping track on, we did not spin the wheel, or because there's no wheel to spin yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kyle is up to date on what we're doing next. What are we doing next, buddy? I forgot. I completely forgot.
We have nothing planned. We didn't plan it.
We didn't plan. We're doing great, everyone. Don't worry. What do we want to do?
Just to let you guys know, Sleep Token has a new album out, just dropped.
I'd be willing to listen to it, but just my preconceived thoughts about Sleep Token might get a lot of angry Sleep Token fans on your channel.
We promote safety at the Super Review
They
Show.
have a very rabid fan base for some reason.
Yeah, but hey, sometimes bad publicity is good publicity. So, you know, if you anger them, just they say, hey, you have a freedom of choice and voice. Use it. You know,
if you anger them, they will come.
Yes.
Wednesday 13 has a new album out too.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to let you guys know that new Bryon Adams album comes out in August 29th. So we got time for that too, which is good. Roll with the punches. So so for those of you keeping track at home, we will surprise you next week with what our next album is. We're not entirely sure about what it is, but we'll let you know. Kyle, Q&A podcast is not back yet, right?
Nope.
Okay. It's not back yet.
There he is, the villain. Cue villain. Cue the villain.
Cue the villain.
Cue the villain. Aha. Cue the villain.
No, but needless to say, Kyle is the villain tonight. Of course, but tune in next week for our surprise. What we will be doing next week. Feel free to tune in on our YouTube channel as well. I want to thank the gentlemen, Kyle and Mike, for doing this podcast with me as always. And Mike, this is actually a really interesting pick. I'm very proud you put it on the wheel.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Thanks you. And because and K-Man. Your insightfulness is unparalleled, needless to say. So thank you for that. But for all of us here at the Super Review Show, please out there, stay safe, take care, and God bless.
God bless
You.